God's in the detail. The detail at the finest granularity is where things lie. So I want to wrap up with something that's pretty cool. And this is a guy, Wilfred the Hairy. Now, Wilfred the Hairy died in 897. And I bring this up because it's important for you to know the history, he was the first person to do a multi-touch paint demo. Now, you don't know this, but as he was dying, he got his hands on a shield, dipped his hands on his blood. He was the founder of Catalonia, and he did this, right? And the blood of his hands on the yellow golden shield became the flag of the Catalan. And that was multi-touch. And I swore I would never do this demo because it's so cheesy, but because it had a historical context, I had to do it. Now, of course, I'm kidding, but what I'd like to do is say, so maybe we could improve on it because it's not 897. So having done that, I want to introduce a really fantastic artist named Nick Kamuda. And you probably saw him this morning when coming out. So Nick's going to come out, and we're going to show you some stuff. And so we'll be quick, but I just want to finish up with a sort of an ABA structure of going from the instrument back to artists. There's a project at Microsoft Research called Project Gustav. And they've been developing a paint program with brushes that just, in my experience, I've never seen anything like it. Nick knocked this particular painting off yesterday. He was working on it, but this is painted completely from scratch. Notice he's got a palette, and while he's painting, he dips, he mixes and stirs the paint. What's critical about this thing is that they're using physical modeling to actually model the physics and so on of the materials in the brush, right down to the level of the paper. He'll show you, but you can change the paper to get different textures and the canvas, and it's got depth. The shadows change depending on where the lighting is, and the paint behaves correctly. Maybe Nick, could you just zoom in for a bit and just show what happens when you just? Yeah, and totally. We're using some hardware that was loaned to us. It's a prototype hardware from Wacom, where it's a mashup of some components that they're developing that include a 10-finger multi-touch coupled with a really high-quality stylus. And when you come in, you keep going in, and it's not all of a sudden fat pixels. You're getting like incredible detail. And you'll notice that if he starts to mess with his fingers, he can smear with his fingers and mix a paint, or he can apply with his brush. He can also manipulate the page, and so he can come in for details and so on and so forth. And so just quickly while you're doing this, but what's really clear, he can paint better than I can play saxophone. And he can really paint better than I can paint. And that's the point. It's not about the technology. Here's a guy who's a professional designer, trained at an art college, a professional painter. So, I mean, in a sense, as a painter, how do you feel? What's the sense of this compared to other painting systems you've used?
Well, it's pretty amazing. I've had this for maybe 2 weeks now. Yeah. They gave it to me about 2 weeks ago to start messing around with. And the number one thing that makes me feel comfortable and at ease about it is the way the color blends. Behaves like oils, right? So they've got all this complex physics modeling and things to simulate the way the oils come together, and the way when I put a mark on the page, let's see, put in some blue here on her sash, the way I can come in and just kind of get right into it with my finger. It's just this impulse that I have, after years and years of training, and I can't ignore it. I just want to use it, right?
So do you want to talk a bit about what the actual tools you can do that I haven't mentioned yet?
Sure. So there's a list of brushes here on the side. The way they model the brushes is pretty impressive. With so if you can see the brush distortion and things like that there, and then charcoal smear erasers, undo, this kind of thing.
Critical thing here is that I love, and we've been working together with them, is that the combination, it's not pen or touch, it's pen and touch. So on the one hand, with the same hand he's using the brush with, he can lay down paint and then just with his fingers smear it. But he can also use his other hand or multiple fingers to actually work the page. And the modalities are really clear and easy to deal with, whether you're smearing the paint or manipulating the page. Yeah. And it's just totally fluid. And so this is why this technology we're using here to do this right now is held together literally with duct tape. But it really is.
See that?
You see that on the side. But here's where this goes. Why don't you keep painting and I'll keep talking so we don't keep these people from lunch. And the thing is this. So you could say, well, I'm not an oil painter. Message number one, this was made and with a total respect, like the luthier, for the skills that somebody spent hours and hours over decades to acquire to paint. That's the deal.
That's the beauty of it.
It's not about cool technology. The technology is there as a prosthesis for the skills of the artist. I said that what you're born with is a capacity to acquire skill. Every person, every customer you have, no matter what your industry is, has acquired, through a lifetime of living in the everyday world, really deep, specialized skills. What I'm saying is, we need, as a community, to show the same respect for those skills, the specific skills of our target audience, as these people, Naga and Bill, who you'll see in a video that's going to be released today, so you can see some more background on this paint system this afternoon on Channel 9. But the same level of skills that Bill and Naga put into this, we all need to put into our different applications. But if you want to say, well, what has this got to do with you? Just think about this. This stuff now runs, what you're seeing right now started off, when we first saw it, ran on a supercomputer, and now it runs on this TX2 HP laptop. Now what that means to you is, SketchFlow runs on this laptop. So the kinds of things I fantasize about is when you're working within something like SketchFlow, you're smacking things up, that you can work your artwork off, and have this caliber of brushes for the designers you're working with, and so they have tools that the minute you give them to them, you'll say, man, you understand what we worked really hard to get. You really respect us. We're going to work our butts off for you. And that's the deal. Now, so just to wrap, here's my closing slides here. And I just want to recap. What I'm trying to say is that what's really changing is not the technology, even though the technology is changing like crazy. What's changing is who is doing what, where, when, why, with whom, and for how much. It's a personal thing. It's human-centered. That's what's the dynamic. My 91-year-old father is now, using desktop video conferencing to talk to his great-grandchildren to spread all over Canada. We've talked about mobile. Mobile is the key, because why mobile is so important in this story is that mobile is with you, and you go to all different contexts that, like the airplane versus the living room, really have different demands. And so how we develop applications for mobile has to really respect this sense of place, of physical, social context, as well as skills, as well as content, as well as applications. And the tools are clearly there now. We saw that with this funny Morse code thing. I mean, it's a joke, but it's no joke. It's greatly serious in the most positive sense. The tools are there now. So we know that we're getting to the point where we can build really solid, engineered applications. But having acquired those skills, our real challenge now, and this is where we need to partner with the designers and the people who are really expert on the human side of things, whose skill about people is as good as the rest of our skill on the technology, is how do we get and apply those phenomenal technical skills to best reflect the skills of the users, and therefore invest those skills in something worthy, that is the right design for the right person in the right place in the right form at the right cost. And that's our challenge over the next year. I'm just dying to see what happens. But if you do it naturally. Thank you. I do have to say thank you in a much more sense. First of all, thank you for the stage crew and everybody who made this happen. This is the end of the keynotes. You have been fantastic in terms of paying attention and the participation. I've loved the conversations, and everybody I've spoken to who's been speaking has said the same thing. Thanks for coming. Have a fantastic time. Go to the sessions. Go for it. But make sure you head out and enjoy what there is of this city as well and what's outside. And, of course, as always, do it naturally. Thanks. Bye-bye.